And welcome to everybody, and welcome to the Texas Real Estate Show. And here we are. Anybody that's interested in real estate, wants to grow their real estate, wants to have the dream of making their everything popular and just getting involved in more real estate. Education is the way to go. And education and application are the two things that you really need to be successful in life. Well, today our special guest is Rob Schroeder from the CE Shop. Hello, Rob. How you doing, buddy?
Good, Stephen. How are you doing?
Living the dream, living the dream. So, tell us a
Great.
little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm the business development executive for the CE Shop here in the greater Houston area. I work with great brokers like yourself to enhance their position with the agents in the field, as well as help them to bring on more agents, help recruiting processes and the like. So it's a great job. Of course, I love working with people like yourself.
And how long have you been in this position?
Well, I've been with the CE Shop for about 2.5 years. I've been a realtor here in the state of Texas. I guess I was licensed in 04 or 05, I think somewhere thereabouts, but took my first test to become a real estate agent in 1979 in Washington State. So I've been around the game a bit from that standpoint to California and now to this great state of Texas.
Absolutely. Welcome to the great state of Texas. And
Indeed.
how much difference did you find from Washington to Texas?
Oh, well, a huge difference. You know, I really, you know, Texas is I like to call it the great country of Texas because obviously it was a country at one point, but we really love the Texas flag and we love being Texan. I've been here for about 21 years, so I'm going to honorarily call myself a Texan. But it's just it's a place where you've got to come here to be around the people to really recognize just how wonderful people are here, how much they love this state. If you're ever going to see the United States flag, right next to it is always going to be the Texas flag. And I love the patriotic ways about Texas.
And how about real estate laws, Washington compared to Texas? I think that's a huge difference, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I would certainly say that. I think, though, that Texas, hands down, Texas has the most required hours of education in any state in the union.
Is that true?
So,
See, I didn't know that. That's an interesting point.
yeah, it really is, and because I think Trek, Texas, they really take it to have the responsibility to make sure that agents really take this seriously, and they give the regular people on the street the best ability to share really what is the most important asset that they're ever going to have, in my opinion, and that's their home. So Texans take that, to heart.
Okay, and just for the viewers, just tell us a little bit about the CE Shop.
Well, we happen to be the largest provider of real estate education nationally in terms of online at your own pace. We call it asynchronous, meaning you have the opportunity to be able to, and especially for people that are looking to transition from, one career to real estate career, you have the opportunity within cracks of time that you have during your day to get through the ominous amount of material that you really do have to get through. And in this state's 180 hours that you have to go through pre-licensing education to be able to get to and pass your test. So 2 o'clock in the morning, you've got time to be able to get online and start that process. You can do it with us, as opposed to having to sit in a classroom setting that has a defined time frame that you have to be there. Kind of tough for folks that already have a job that are doing pretty well at the job that they're in, and they're just wanting to make the transition of becoming their own person and having their own practice.
And now you do real estate licensing. Do you do loan licensing?
We have just brought out mortgage loan officer licensing. Yeah, so we have pre-licensing available along with continuing education available, as well as pre-licensing real estate and the continuing education. SAE, of course, that's required here in the state of Texas. And all of that actually is available through your co-branded site that we've co-branded for you, olympiantexas.theceshop.com.
Well, I appreciate you, putting that in. How about appraisers and inspectors? Do you accommodate them in any way?
We will be. Inspectors are going to be coming out on our website, asynchronous learning again, very shortly. I'm expecting it within the next 2 to 3 months. And then lastly, we will have appraiser pre-licensing as well as continuing education that will happen. And I want to say, hopefully right before the end of the year, but realistically, I think we'll see that come 2023 early on.
And now, what's your opinion of the real estate market and what we've been through the last 2 to 3 years? What's your feeling on that?
What's my feeling? Well, it's been a crazy, wonderful ride for many, and the ride's not over. We certainly have a lot of unanswered questions that I think most real estate agents and people really looking for homes right now are asking. And I think really the biggest answer to that is if you are looking to purchase a home, there's no better time than now to get onto that horse, because as we know, we're going to see some rates ramp up here probably by the end of the year. So the rate that we have today is probably really the best rate that we're going to have for a while. So if you want to get on, now's the time. I don't see, and I haven't seen a dip in demand. We're selling homes faster than we can put them on the market, and that's not a lie.
I had a
that we're seeing.
well.
I'm sure you
It's
have
funny.
it
It's
as
funny you
well.
say that. I've sort of got back into myself that listing properties, and I listed a property for one of my old clients, and I put the sign up on Sunday morning at about 9 o'clock, and by 5 o'clock that day I'd had 3 calls. It wasn't in the MLS. As soon as I put it in the MLS, I think we've had 9 showings, and
Yeah.
it's just been nuts. It has just been nuts,
And I don't see it really slowing down. Obviously, it slowed down a little bit, and that's just basically because of time frame. It always kind of slows down at the first of the year, but we're seeing the ramp up. Kids are coming out of school. We are now at prime selling time in the state of Texas. Kids are out of school. Everybody's going to want to start, making the changes that they want to make to get into that bigger house for their family, or reap the benefits of the market that has really taken their home and inflated the value of that home. If they're interested in really, if you're a homeowner right now and you're interested in downsizing, I don't think there's a better time that there has ever been in the state of Texas than now to put your home on the market. And watch out, watch the watch the offers come in, and them all coming in higher and higher and higher.
Yeah. Well, the house that we just listed, unfortunately, the seller has had to go to an assisted living, and
Okay.
the house is very, very dated, but in Houston, it is near impossible to find a home for under 250,000. Near impossible.
Sure.
And we've listed this one at 195, and it needs a lot of work, but the offers are still coming in.
Well, and
Whether it appraises for that, of course, is another question. But the truth of the matter is, I mean, when to find a home in central Houston for under 250,000, it's just amazing. So let's just sort of follow on a little bit. When a new agent joins you, I mean, what do you feel is the biggest motivator for a new agent?
I think Well, there's a lot of different motivations that I've really heard in my travels. But really the biggest one is they just don't feel like they're being utilized in the positions that they might be having now. Maybe they've reached where they think is a plateau in the work that they're doing now, and they want more. They want to have flexibility to be able to live a life and also have a wonderful opportunity to to have a business, a practice that they have that they can really make a good amount of money if you work hard. I mean, real estate is not for the timid. Real estate, being an agent, you've got to get out there and you've got to make it happen. But for those that are really wanting to do it, there's a lot of motivation, and one of them is just you wanting to get out from behind somebody that's telling them what to do, so that they can do what they know needs to be done to become a great, successful real estate agent. We
What?
find
Go on, carry on.
Well, we're finding a lot of young people getting into the game now, which is really important. We need the influx of young entrepreneurial real estate agents to come on board, because we are seeing an ebbing of what was the traditional real estate agent, a little bit older, a little more seasoned, and they are getting ready to retire and move on. And so we need some new blood and some new excitement happening. And we're seeing that. And I'm talking to a lot of those agents that are coming on board. And so those new agents really need to have an opportunity to be involved with an organization like your own, Stephen, that is going to provide excellent, accommodation, learning experiences that they're going to need, mentorship that they're going to need to really excel and be top of the field.
What do you think is the biggest mistake that new agents make? Like
Uh,
a new agent coming in, we're going to talk about the licensing in a bit.
okay.
On the process that they go through, and how your company is suited to that process. But what when you see a new agent come in, what are the mistakes that you feel they make when to be successful in the business? Because you and me know this is a very difficult business to be successful in. Everybody thinks it's a piece of cake. I just write a contract, pick up my check, and I'm done. But it
Right.
doesn't work like that. I mean, when I first came into the business in 2003, and there was more inventory out there, I think I was one of the lucky ones. I think it took me about 60 days, 90 days to close my first transaction. The business is different now. It's so much different. The rental market has increased.
Yes.
Especially wherever you're, real estate is very regional, in my opinion. And that's one of the beauties of this show that we're trying to put through, is we have got some companies that are coming in from San Antonio, Austin, San Marcos, El
Mhm.
Paso, and we're going to talk about the market and the differences of the market in them places. But what do you feel are the most important steps for a new agent? They are working their way through the licensing, and what mistakes do you see them making, and what decisions do you think you know that they really need to think about?
Well, that's a great question, Stephen. I really believe that the the new agent needs to recognize that they don't know anything, even though they've gone through the process of getting their license. And you do have to be humble in this business to understand that there are other people out there that can show them a lot of great ideas and things that's really, if they hit the ground running with the steps, especially if they have a mentor that they can go to. I always go back to the 80-20 rule. 80% of the business of real estate, the homes that are being sold, are really being sold by 20% of the agent force that's out there. And that is pretty rote through, I think, all of the areas that we see in Texas. So to go out and just look for one person and say, hey, can you help me, may not be the best way to do it. What you really have to do as a new agent, you have to go in and say, okay, who is the ones that are writing most of the business out there? Where is the 20 percenters? I want to work with the 20 percenter. I want to know what they do when they wake up of a morning. You know what? How many phone calls are they making during the day? How many times do they get out of their car and walk up to a house and knock on the door and say, "Hello, I'm the real estate agent in the area. I'd love to, have a conversation with you if you're interested in selling your home." I want to be that person that sits in the other seat that watches this person do their job on a daily basis, so that I can mirror that, so that I can be as successful as they are. So if there's one thing that I would say to a brand new agent is, it's all about education, and it's going to be all about education until we die, because I'm clearly still in the game of education and wanting to know just exactly how it's going to be best for me to serve if I was in the real estate game today. How am I going to be able to serve my client? Where do I find my client? How do I get to that point? Well, I know the best and quickest way to be successful is to latch on to somebody that already is, and so that they can help me to achieve the same kind of rewards that they have. And so that's what I would tell most people is, find that mentor brokerage that is really focused on raising everyone up and giving you the opportunity to learn and to get out there in the field with the best, so that you can make money as well.
Yeah, and what I think one of the biggest mistakes new agents make is, I think learning is important, but it really boils down to application and how you apply that knowledge to the situation that you have. And that's where the mentorship comes in. That's where you need a broker that's going to respond to calls. You need a broker that's going to be there for you when you need him. And
Absolutely.
and that's one of the things I learned as an Olympian. I changed coaches when I was an Olympian, and that coach that I had um, the gift, if you want to, of making somebody that was good very good. Making somebody that was very good, he could make them excellent. He could always take them to the next level. He could always, make it happen for them. And it was such a difference on our regime that we had for coaching, because indirectly what happened, it motivated us by the success that we gained internationally. And I think there's no difference between finding. I think it's important that new agents find a broker that suits their style.
Indeed.
All the brokers are going to promise you the world because they just want your signature on the contract.
Yep.
Um, but really, what I think is important, that you have continual training, um, and a lot of it is duplication. It's learning to do the same thing, so it's a bit like muscle memory.
Well,
Um,
Stephen, I love what you said, because I really believe that everybody needs a coach. And I think that, I mean, if you look at anybody that's been successful out there, I don't care who they are. You look at Tiger Woods, you look at any NBA player, any baseball player, all of them have had not only base coaches or hitting coaches, but individual coaches. Those people that have excelled in their field always have had coaches. If you're a singer in a rock band, you have a coach to help you to get to that excellent position. And so, and we fail to, as individuals, recognize just how important that is. And I think it's important for the agent out there to interview their broker, or the brokers that they want to have an affiliation with, and as much as the broker is interviewing them. Matter of fact, I think it's more important for them, like you were saying, Stephen, they've got to feel comfortable, and they've got to want to be involved with that broker. And if that broker and the people that are with that broker are going to be that coach for them, well, that's where they want to be, because sometimes coaches are not gonna sugarcoat things. They're going to tell it exactly like it is. And as agents in the field, we want to have that type of communication where you're going to tell it like it is. You're going to give us what we need to be able to get out there and really make a great living for our families. So a coach is so important in that respect.
Yeah, one of the things I always tell new agents to do when we have prospective agents come in and they say they're interviewing with this broker and that broker, and I always say to them, well, call a broker at 9 o'clock at night and 10 o'clock at night. Call a broker on a weekend and see who answers the phone, because that's when you're going to need your broker when you're writing your first contract, and there's going to be some questions about your first contract. And just call your broker up 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, or a weekend, and that's the first test for a broker.
Yeah.
A lot of
Oh,
brokers,
absolutely.
they're done at 5 o'clock. That's it. They're out the building. So anyway, just tell us a little bit then. We're going to move on, because I don't want to get stuck too much on this. So what's the process on how you obtain your license in the state of Texas?
Okay, well, it's pretty simple. I mean, and we guide you through that process at the CE shop. If you go to olympian.texas.theceshop.com. But really, what the first thing you need to do is recognize that you have to be at least 18 years of age to get started. You must be either a U.S. citizen or a lawfully admitted alien. You have to meet the TREC requirements for honesty, trustworthiness, and integrity. And you need to consider requesting a fitness determination actually before applying for the license. So some things that might have happened in your past, if there's a felony involved or something to that effect, you need to talk or contact TREC to see if they would allow you to have a license here in the state of Texas. And then after all that, you do need to complete 180 hours of approved pre-licensing education, which we provide online at your own pace. You pass the course final exams. Each 30 hours has an exam for that. And then after all of those, you do have a final exam that you pass. And then you complete your license application. You provide fingerprints. And then the Texas real estate salesperson exam. And then you choose a sponsor broker. And that's kind of the 6 steps that you have. What you really want to do when and we kind of spell this out, is, you want to find out what the reputation is, both locally and nationally, and what kind of real estate agents are they looking for? Are they technically advanced and up to date with the latest systems? How do they support their agents with education and training? Education and training is so important. What kind of structure do they have for you in terms of commission? And do they offer benefits? Do they provide their agents with leads and marketing material? Is there room to grow with the brokerage? All that kind of stuff. Those questions are great to ask the broker when you sit down with them.
Yeah, and isn't it then, after they've got their licensing, they have to do an additional 60 hours within 2 years?
It's 90 hours. In the state of Texas, they have SAE hours that they have to complete within the next 2 years after they've completed their pre-licensing exam. So it's 90 hours plus
so they've
8 hours.
So they've increased it then. They're increasing the hours required, which is nice to see.
Yeah. And that also can be done online. We have that as well. It is all those, you have 3 30-hour courses that you do, and all of those are proctored as well. So we handle all that for you.
That is okay. Well, that's good information to get. Do you suggest, what's your feelings on part-time and full-time real estate agents? Do you have a feeling on that, or you really don't care?
Well, I would, here's the thing, part-time, there is no part-time real estate agent, to be candid. If you're going to get into real estate, you will quickly realize that your time that you're spending in the real estate, in the business of real estate, is going to take more time than 3 or 4 hours a day. Just getting your first deal going is going to be more. So I would tell anybody that if they feel that they want to do it on a part-time basis, that they have to recognize that that means that it's going to be most of the rest of the time that they have available above and beyond maybe the job that they have. You do really have to be very, it's very important to recognize and to take courses that are going to help you in the contracts. Contracts are so important. Brokers are always concerned about how you're filling out the contracts and all the other addendums that go along with that. And so a real estate agent needs to be consistently doing contracts. And so part time is kind of tough to be able to know your contracts and know what kind of addendums to bring to the table, depending on where that house is situated, whether it's on property, whether it has a well, whether it has, septic systems and other things that are going to be required to put on an addendum so that everybody knows what's going on there. So as much as I know that there are people out there that want to do it in a part-time basis, they just have to know that that's not a 2 or 3 hours a day. That's still going to be a 6 to 8 hour day to really make sure that you're doing it right by the client.
Yeah, I've I've been in the business now nearly 25 years, and I've only seen maybe two part-time agents really make it a successful business for them. I think, like you said, 20% of the agents do 80% of the business. Well, maybe two agents at the most I've seen very successful. We've got one at the moment that's very successful. But he's got such a job where it gives him a little bit of flexibility, to do stuff, to maybe call some of his clients. But
Sure.
he's one of the few, to be perfectly honest, that I've particularly seen. But I did my continuing education through the CE shop, and I'll be honest with you, for somebody as old as me, I found it actually pretty easy to do. And obviously, since COVID, your business must have shot through the roof after COVID, didn't it?
Well, yeah, it certainly did. I think we found a paradigm shift, quite frankly, in terms of education that happened through COVID and a lot of different things. Even our conversation that we're having right now on a Zoom meeting, we may have been doing this in studio at a different time frame, but now this is so prevalent, having Zoom meetings with clients and with friends and family. So beyond that point, we see that people are really understand the importance of their time and recognize that having the ability to do continuing education, pre-licensing, post-licensing, SAE in their time and not having to, I've got to get done with this certain amount of hours, so I got to come outside, got to go away from the business of real estate and sit in a classroom for 4 to 6 hours, really doesn't help their practice. So what we've done, and I really think that the CE shop really speaks to that 20% group that does 80% of the business. They don't have time during the day to sit in a 3 or 4 hour classroom to get continuing education. But yet they do have time, let's say after they put the kids to bed, they've had something to eat. Now they've got 2 or 3 hours that they can sit alone and get some continuing education done. That's what we call utilizing those cracks of times that you have to be able to get this job done.
Absolutely. And then one of my last questions is going to be, what's your feeling on investors coming into the business? Do you think they should participate in doing the classes, but maybe not going live on the license because of the liability? Or, I mean, I think I've always thought that investors should, if somebody's just coming in specifically to invest, I think they should do the classes so they're familiar with the paperwork, they're familiar with the contracts. And I just think it's money well worth spent for an investor to even do the classes, but just don't go live. Because when you do go live with a broker and you're an investor, you could be taking on liability. So, you know, but at the same time, I do feel that a good real estate agent will develop a rental portfolio over time. You know, I mean, that's what I've basically done. But I think it's a different game changer.
I think it really depends on the investor, and what kind of thing they're looking to do. I think I don't care what you do in and around real estate, getting more education about contracts, what's required, why it's required, and kind of knowing and having a greater knowledge, especially in the area that they're wanting to purchase property in, I think is paramount for them. I mean, it should be a given that they know a lot about the real estate process, the process of purchase. Getting a license and carrying a license is, I don't think, as important, but certainly the education and the knowledge, I think, is key for success for them. And if they're not going to be a real estate agent, then they really just need to align themselves with excellent realtors, and one that they can, trust, that's going to get all the information that they need. One of the worst things that an investor has to deal with is unforeseen situations that they come into, and that's really a lot to do with the preparation in the property before they purchased it, making sure that they checked out everything they needed to, and their education into that is going to be a great asset for them. But certainly having a realtor that understands that as well and brings that to the fore for them is going to really can save them tens of thousands of dollars in terms of situations that they may get into. So I would agree. I think education is so important to an investor.
Yeah, because one of the problems I feel with investors is there's a lot of investor classes out there on how to flip homes, how to do, all this stuff. There was somebody that I was speaking to the other day. They did a class in Arizona. Well, you know that Arizona real estate laws are completely different to what they are in Texas.
Absolutely.
And they spent, I think it was nearly $2,000 on this class on how to flip a home in Houston, Texas. And they're calling me up and they're asking me for a 1-to-4 family contract. And I said, well, I'm sorry, but if you're not licensed, you can't fill that in.
Well, absolutely you can't.
And so that's one of the reasons that for investors to come in, I really feel the best money that they can spend is on a real estate course, because the laws that's why I asked the question about Washington, is the real estate laws in Texas are completely different to other states. We don't have escrow. We have an option period. A lot of states don't have an option period. And I think it's important that people don't just learn, but they learn well. And some investors that come in that call me up. I was talking to a guy the other day, actually he's now a new client, and he owns 40 properties in Houston. And
wow,
there was things that he didn't understand, and all of a sudden his liability light came up and thought, well, there's a couple of deals out there that I could have put myself in a liability situation.
Right.
So that's why I think it's money well worth spent for investors to go out there and do the classes, and learn it. And there's a lot of quality investors that we work with within our company, and what they do is they go out there, they do the classes that you provide, they never activate their license with Trek. They also do, so it's basically an inactive license. And then what they
Yeah.
do is the classes every 2 years to keep themselves up to date. Because, like I just said to you, the continuing education has changed, even for new agents, all the time. It's changing, and it's getting
Yep.
more difficult. Real estate agents are getting more scrutinized, and that's the biggest difference that I've found the last 5 years. You know, we're becoming more scrutinized by TREC, Texas Real Estate Commission, who I do think are
Yep.
doing a better job than they've ever done before. Um, you know,
I would agree.
one time I'd call up Trek and I'd be on hold for 45 minutes. It's not like that no more. You know, now the calls are being answered. But that's why I asked the question to you, you know, about investors. But with investors who wants to come in, I would rather work with an investor that has a decent ground of real estate knowledge, whether it be with the contracts, negotiation skills, and I really feel that the more contracts you write, then the more you learn the negotiation skills, because it's all about application.
Well, and you know the old adage, repetition is the mother of skill.
Absolutely.
So the you know the more the more you do, the more you know, and the better you get at that negotiation table and all of that. So I would wholeheartedly agree with all of that.
Yeah.
You know, and it really all goes back to consistent education. And I think that I've said this before. I know somebody else said it, but I think, you know, once we believe that we know it all, we know nothing. Because if we recognize that we are in a constant state of learning, that our life needs to be in a constant state of learning, and as a professional real estate agent, we have to be in that mode on a consistent level, as well as the investors need to be in that consistent mode of learning, because you know things change. I mean, the 1-to-4 contract that we have today is not the same contract that we had in 2004, or you know, or even 2015. And addendums have changed, and all of those things have changed. They've changed for the good, to take care of the client necessarily. And so if we're doing our job, we know the differences and why this new contract is out, and why we're making sure that all of these spaces are ticked and filled in appropriately, so we're making and executing a proper contract.
Absolutely. Well, I want to sort of sign off and thank you, Rob, for taking the
Thank
time
you,
in your
Stephen.
day to come into the CE shop. As many of you have noticed, my co-host, James Lee of Lee Group Loans, wasn't able to make it this morning. It would have been
Oh,
nice to have him to have come on, but unfortunately he had something that he had to take care of. But I just want to thank you, Rob, for coming on, and I'm sure I'll be seeing you in the future as my agents, want to do a few more classes. So
sounds great.
I
Thank you for
appreciate your
having
time.
me.
You're more than welcome, and thank you to the CE shop. Appreciate your day. Peace,
Thank
everybody.
you. All right.